Providing great therapy day after day can be challenging even for the best of us. At Blueprint, they believe that nothing should get in the way of you doing your best work, which is why they created a platform that provides therapists with an array of clinical tools. Things like therapy worksheets, intervention ideas, and digital assessments that are designed to help you and your clients stay connected and confident throughout the care journey. Even better, Blueprint helps streamline your documentation so you can spend less time on your notes and more time on the things that matter. To learn more and request a 30-day free trial, visit blueprint-health.com. Again, that's www.blueprint-health.com. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 877.
Well, hey friends, welcome back to another episode of The Therapy Show. I am so excited to have my friend Joe Sanok on the podcast this week. Welcome, Joe. It's so awesome to have you back.
Oh, Lisa, I'm so glad to be back.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, I've already had Joe on the show at least 2 other times, and I'll put the links to those episodes in the show notes. But it's always great to have you. So what are you up to these days? What's new in the world of Practice of the Practice?
Oh, over probably the last couple of years, we've really built out our membership communities so that from the moment that somebody says to themselves, I think I might want to start a practice, all the way through, I'm sick of private practice. I want to launch e-courses and membership communities, that we have a supportive community all the way through. So we've been working really hard on that. I think since I was on last, my book launched. Thursday is the new Friday. And so that was published by HarperCollins, all about the 4-day work week. So Simon Sinek brought me on as one of his speakers, and the book's doing well. So, And I get to raise 2 awesome daughters that are 8 and 11. And so we play outside a lot and play board games. So life is good.
Yeah, I love it. You have been so busy, and I love to see your growth over the past couple of years. It's so cool. And I know that you have a mission and a heart for helping therapists, have the business of their dreams, whatever that looks like for them. And I know that we want to spend some time today and talk about what you should be focusing on in each phase of building your business, whether that's solo private practice or starting a group practice or growing a group practice. And for those of you who don't know, I don't have a practice, and maybe we can talk about that as you kind of go through and the reasons why. However, I am a huge fan and advocate for therapists to have a solo practice if that's something that they're itching to do, maybe get out of agency work or, leave the set their own schedule and have that lifestyle freedom, because I am all about those things. All right. So where should we start when it comes to where you need to spend your time when you're considering growing or opening a private practice?
Yeah. So right at the beginning, you have to look at, are you going to take a hustle, keep things cheap mindset, which is definitely valid when you're first starting something new? Or do you have some savings or some capital where you can put some extra money into it to save yourself time? Both are valid, but for different reasons. So the hustle side, this may be that you just want to test out private practice. You don't know if you're fully buying in. You're not going to quit your full-time job and mic drop and walk away. Maybe you have financial responsibilities. There's a variety of reasons why someone would say, I'm going to give this some effort, both in my time and in my money, but not everything. And then there's other people. Maybe they have a partner that brings in the primary income. Maybe they are just burned out in their social work job, whatever the reason, and they are just ready to jump ship. And they're going to just dive full in. So the first decision to make is, how much of your time and hustle are you going to put in? Or are you going to pay somebody else for some of those things? So it could be, on one side, you're going to figure out how to file the paperwork in your state. So in most states, that's going to be an LLC or a PLLC, not California. But you're going to figure that out on your own, versus maybe you just hire an attorney to file all that, or have your accountant file all of that, or go through a higher end service to do it. So those initial decisions on your time then dictate where you're headed after that. And so that'll go into how you decide to do your website. You can bootstrap it. You can learn WordPress or any of these other platforms. You can do that, or you can hire a company to do it. And then you look at SEO, search engine optimization. So through all of it, that initial phase, you're looking at, how much of my operations do I need to get this thing going? There's some very simple things like, having your legal paperwork, having your bank account, having your liability insurance, and then how people will find you. So your marketing, your website, all of that. And then there's the actual clinical side of it. So with all of it, we want to say, where are we going to spend our money? Where are we going to spend our time?
Gotcha. Okay. So I have a lot of questions as you went over that, because I'm kind of stuck in the middle. Like if I was going to bootstrap things, and then if I had some savings, where would I spend my time and my energy? And I know there's this idea of working in your business versus working on your business. And so I'm the kind of person that if it's technical and it's going to include like coding and HTML, then I'm gonna hire somebody. I'm gonna outsource that. But if it's paperwork or filing for my LLC, those are things I feel like I can do. So would you recommend? Like how do you know if where you stand with all that? Is it really take a look at your finances? Do you look at your strengths? What do you think?
I'm a big fan of, at every phase of practice, experimenting with what you like. You may start doing bookkeeping and QuickBooks and realize, I love this. Holy cow, I didn't realize I liked numbers this much. Maybe I thought I was bad at math, but I'm actually really good at it and I enjoy seeing those numbers. So if you experiment and say, I'm going to just see how this goes, and then you may discover, actually, I hate this so much. Like I want to pierce my eyes out. And then you might say, okay, I'm going to outsource this, or I'm going to figure out how to automate it. And so to be able to stay organized with a checklist of what should you do, at the initial phase of practice, what are those initial steps for operations? Same with, when you're starting a group practice, when you're growing a group practice, just start to dip your toes into areas. There's nothing wrong with learning things and then handing it off. So as an overall guiding principle, we want to look at the plate and how full it is for you, not just with your business, but with your life. There's, some people that maybe their kids have disabilities, or maybe, they're helping their parent who's older. And so your plate's already full. And then maybe you also have a full-time job on top of it. And so the sliver of your plate that actually can put time and energy into your private practice might be really small. So in that situation, we need to say, do we need to make more room on that plate? So that could be, I'm going to have a cleaner come clean my house once a month so that I have time to put into my practice. Maybe you can't afford a cleaner. So then you say, okay, I'm going to give myself permission to just work on this a few hours a month. And maybe it's not going to launch as fast as other people. But the idea of just filling up our plates and then being stressed, that's not going to serve anybody when it comes to starting a practice. And so freeing up that time, and then with that time, allowing ourselves to say, I'm going to now give it a whirl, see how it goes, and observe how I'm feeling in this process.
Gotcha. It's really wise. Probably the advice that we'd be giving to our clients if they were struggling with time management and things like that. So what about insurance panels? Is that something we need to be thinking about too?
Yeah, so that's a decision that right at the beginning, you probably should think through. I mean, you got to decide, are you going to be fully private pay, fully insurance, or somewhere in the middle? None of those decisions have to be permanent decisions. There's no insurance panel that says you're signing for the next 40 years to be on our insurance panel. So there's different processes to leave them. It's a longer process to go through CAQH and get paneled and all of that. But I would say start with, what are your personal goals? So if you have a full-time job and you're thinking, I really want to leave this full-time job and I can just do 5 sessions a week. I'm going to do evenings twice a week for 2 or 3 sessions. You're probably not going to want to put a whole lot of time into adding an insurance panel, because the amount of time that's going to go into that to get a lower rate, you're going to fill up really quick if you only have 5 sessions a week. Whereas if you are leaving your job and you're in a rural community where 95% of people have insurance and you need to fill up in the next month, that's probably a great reason to join some insurance panels. And so looking at the market and then pairing that with your own family situation, your own life situation, allows you then to decide, what do you want that ratio to be? Because either way, you're going to be putting time into something. If you go insurance, you're going to be putting your time into the systems, into the EHRs, into following up with billing and pre-authorizations and all of that. If you go on the cash pay side, then you're going to be putting more time into the marketing. You're going to be putting more time into the networking, and to really being able to articulate your value as to why someone should use out-of-network benefits instead of in-network benefits.
Gotcha. It makes a lot of sense. I appreciate the explanation there. Okay, so if you are considering, let's say you're in private practice and you're just busting at the seams and it's now time to bring on another therapist. Oh my gosh. Where do you even start? I have no idea.
I would back up a couple steps from that moment.
Okay.
when you're 60% full, if you have any private pay at all, you should be raising your rates by $25 to $35 for new people. Most folks will be slightly above their insurance rate. So if insurance is paying somewhere between 90 and 115, they might be at 125. And then they'll say, I'm full, I have a wait list. They're really proud that they're that full. But it's like you're leaving money on the table. And so to say, well, let's bounce up to 175. Let's do a major jump here. And the next private pay person that calls, we're going to start them at 175. When that person says yes, you're going to crap yourself. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, my value is so much higher. Whereas if you went from 125 to 130, there's going to be zero emotional reaction there.
Right.
So Anna's going to bring up a whole bunch of money issues for you where you're going to say, am I even worth 175? Why does my plumber get 175 and I don't? Like, it's going to bring up all sorts of stuff that's good to work through. So when you're 60% full, that's when you really want to raise your private pay rates. And to do that throughout the year, and then each year seek to get closer to alignment. Now, everyone's going to have a different way that they do this. Some people want everyone to be aligned completely, exact same rate for private pay. Other people want to look at people's situations. So every October, November, when people are thinking through their annual deductibles, things like that with their HSAs, you're going to want to say, I'm charging 175 for private pay. You're at 125. So as of January 1st, I'm going to be raising your rates to 150. And so it's a jump and maybe you don't go all the way to 175. So assuming you're doing that and you've got some people coming in, that's when you want to start to look at, starting a group practice, if that's what you want. Some people just don't want that. So a couple things that are myths of when to bring on your first clinician. One myth is definitely that I have to have the intakes coming in to fill that person up. When someone joins your practice, they bring their own network, they bring their own skills, they bring their own value. So you don't even need to have people calling you saying, I want to work with someone beyond you. The other thing is that looking at your own clients and saying, okay, I mostly work with couples. They all have these kids, these couples are fighting or maybe even divorcing, and these kids want therapy, and I'm referring these kids out all the time. Maybe there's an opportunity there to bring in a play therapist. And so starting to think through where are you referring out, but then even where are you at with your practice?
Okay. And so how does that work? Walk me through what it looks like when you bring somebody into a group practice. Like, why wouldn't you just refer people all day long? Like, what's the benefit to you to having these people in your group practice?
Yeah, well, I love taking the heart side of a practice and pairing it up with like the numbers side of a practice. So say you're referring out 4 people a week, that's a pretty robust practice, doing okay. It's not stellar having 10 or 20 a week, but 4 is legit. So that means that within 4 weeks or so, assuming they all convert, that would be about 16 clients that you could fill someone up with. And say we gave ourselves 2 months. So within 2 months, we can have this person at 16 clients a week. So let's take a really conservative number of 16 clients per week and say it's 125 per session that you're getting on average between insurance and private pay. That's $2,000 per week of gross revenue that's coming in. Now, say that person worked 48 weeks a year. That's $96,000 in gross revenue. Now, on average, between all the different benefits, if they're W-2 or if they're a 1099, they're probably going to take away around 50 to 60% of that, meaning that with taxes and other costs, most likely you're going to take home 25% of this amount. That means that 25% of that 96K is an extra $24,000 a year for a part-time clinician coming in. So if you had 4 people that were seeing 16 people a week in your practice, whether that's online or whether that's in person, that's an extra $96K a year for you. So if we broke that down even by month, that's an extra $8,000 a month. Now, Lisa, I don't know about you, but I would love an extra $8K a month. I can think of lots of ways to spend an extra $8K a month.
Right.
And so for most of our codes of ethics, it's unethical to refer to someone else outside of our practice and get some sort of compensation from that.
Right.
And so we're just going to do it because it's a good fit. But if they're in-house, then that money is staying in-house, assuming you have good clinicians that are doing the work that pairs up with what people want. Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes notes, billing, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why Therapy Notes is the highest rated EHR on Trustpilot with over 1,000 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 out of 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for the trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week, so when you have questions, you can quickly reach out to someone who can help, and you will never be wasting your time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial, so you can get going right away. Use the promo code JOE to get the first 3 months totally free to try it out. No strings attached. And remember, telehealth is included with every subscription free. Make 2022 the best year yet with Therapy Notes. Again, use promo code JOE to get 3 months totally free.
Okay. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I can think of a lot of things I'd like to do with extra $8,000. So, it's funny because I was actually thinking the other day that I don't necessarily want to go into private practice. I just want to have a group practice. Like I just want to start and create a group practice and not do the clinical work. I think that's just where I am in my career. So maybe that's coming. Maybe I'll get it in me and I'll.
It's so funny that you say that because recently I was looking at top cities in the US and I bought those top cities plus the term onlinecounseling.com. And so like I bought New York onlinecounseling.com and I'm like, I'll just buy it. And I'm like, maybe I should just start a group practice there. Or who knows? And I'm like, I could test out what I'm talking about. So we'll see if that's to come. But I was mulling the same idea as you.
Yeah. I mean, oh gosh, just kind of dreaming about that. But yeah, I think, I mean, I kind of feel like that's the next thing for therapists. There's just such a need for good clinical work. And this is super helpful in thinking this all through. Okay, so when it comes to what you need to be doing, where to spend your time when you're starting a group practice, what does that look like? What are those things that need to happen first?
Yeah, so when you're in that startup phase, starting a solo practice, most of the time people are wearing a bunch of different hats. They're the bookkeeper, they may be the biller, or they're at least doing a lot of checking of the billing. They're doing the marketing, they're doing the social media, the website, the blogging, like everything falls on that person's shoulders. When you're moving into a group practice, you want to look at that you're growing a clinical team, but you're also starting to outsource things so that you can genuinely be the owner and boss of this practice and not just the solopreneur mindset. So you're going to start to aggressively take hats off. And I recommend that people write down what they're doing into 3 categories. So the first one is things that you absolutely hate doing and you know you really shouldn't be doing. The second is things that you love doing, but you know you shouldn't be doing. And then the last category is things that you love doing and that you are doing and should be doing. Okay. And so things that you just hate doing and really shouldn't be doing, that's going to be easy to outsource. So maybe, like you said, when it comes to coding, you're like, there's no way I'm going to do that. Yeah. So really early on, you'll want to have someone that can help if your website breaks, can help install certain HTML onto your website, things like that. That's usually things that people already are like, I don't want to touch my books. I'm going to outsource that to a bookkeeper. That's the easy stuff. The next category is where people at this phase really have a hard time giving things up. And that's the things that they know that they are really good at. They like doing it, but they really shouldn't be doing it. And the phrase I hear over and over is, no one can do it like me. Like, I don't want them to screw up my practice. I'm a perfectionist. It's my baby, things like that. First, your practice is not your baby. Like, there's times you need to kill parts of your business and you should never kill your child. So let's just start with it. We can love our businesses, but there's times that we need to be brutal with them as well and say, that's just not working anymore. So then it's saying, well, what can I do to train other people to grow in that competence? And so, yes, maybe no one can do that intake phone call like you, but let's start to just document that, or have your executive assistant start to listen in on those, see if you could record examples of that. Obviously, you're not going to record it if someone's just calling your practice. That'd be super weird. But to do even just practice recordings of how that should sound, so that executive assistant or intake coordinator can start to sound like you. And so over time, starting to outsource different hats and slowly take them off and say, I need to free up that plate to be able to do the bigger things. I need to now get more intakes coming into the practice. I need to get more clinicians coming into the practice, boost our SEO, work with local organizations that will refer people, maybe partner with an EAP or a larger business in town. That's the things that owners should be doing at that stage. Whereas answering the phones, responding to intakes, rescheduling people, that's where that hat needs to come off.
Okay, really, really good. That's really wise. I like the three buckets of where, things that you can do, like to do, shouldn't do. It makes sense, makes complete sense. Okay. And then as you're growing your practice, I mean, I know it's going to look different for everybody, but how do you know when it's time to grow again?
Yeah. I would say for most people that we have in group practice, boss, it comes pretty unintentionally. They just, have two or three people and then they see a need and they see that there's people calling and they can start adding more and more. And next thing you know, they're at 10 people. I don't necessarily think that's the best thing to just be like, oh, how'd I get here? But for a lot of people, they didn't even set out to be a group practice owner, let alone a mega group practice owner. So a lot of times what happens is the systems we set up as a solo practice owner or even as a young group practice owner can't scale with us. So an early question we want to start to ask ourselves is, if I got 30 more clients this week that called us, like, could we handle that? Or if I had 30 more clinicians that were working for me, could I handle that? Now, you may not want a group practice, which is fine, or a mega group practice, which is fine, but we would still want to have something that's scalable to be able to move with us. And so even things like, how much is your intake coordinator doing things manually that a lot of these EHRs could really do well without it? Like, are they manually entering in credit cards when that person could have entered it themselves? Are there emails we could send to our clients to help with an onboarding? Could we have an onboarding video that says, hey, welcome to the practice. I'm Joe Sanak. I'm the owner. You're going to be meeting with your clinician. All those details are below in this video. Make sure that you fill out the paperwork online. Otherwise, that'll delay your practice. Like, what are the things that happen over and over that we can systematize? And that's where we want to start thinking through as the owner of us not coming up with those systems. And so having the executive assistant, having the intake coordinator, having an operations person be the one that creates those systems, because most likely they are much better at it than you are. You're probably an ideas person, like you can rile people up, get them excited, or bring people together, whatever your skill set is. We want you to do more of that. And we want the clinical oversight, the supervision, the operations to be with people that are really good at those things.
Okay. It's getting my wheels turning. Lots of ideas here. I love what you said about the video. I never thought about, sending a video to a new client and letting them know. I mean, that's a really cool idea. Do you see that? Have you seen people do that?
Yeah. I mean, okay. I've had chiropractors that had things where even so much that before you even go into your first appointment, they say, please come 15 minutes early. We have an onboarding video for you to watch before you go in to meet with this person. Things that are just really creative ways to do it. So that is cool. Anything that you're repeating, you want to try to automate as much as possible with technology and outside of a person manually doing it. Because anything manual, that can get screwed up. Not that technology can't, but if we set it up that once person's added here, then they're removed from this email list, or they're a trigger to enter their insurance card, or any of those things, we want to be able to start to finish, be able to have as much of that be automated as possible so that it's easier on the client. I mean, because if there's less friction, they're like, oh, I feel taken care of. I'm going to therapy and I don't have to enter my insurance card 6 times because it's automated correctly. So they have a more positive experience. But then your clinicians don't have to deal with stuff that they don't want to do. They want to do therapy. So let's let them do therapy.
Yeah, that's great. Is there, I mean, I don't know much about EHRs, but is there something out there that has all of these things? I mean, I know there are different ones that exist, but can you think of one that has all of this?
Yeah, full disclosure, Therapy Notes has been a sponsor for years. All the billers that we work with say that they just use Therapy Notes. And so my understanding is that they're the best one in regards to both the billers and the clinician being able to see both sides really accurately. Okay. I haven't kept up to date on, different ones that have come out because, our members really like Therapy Notes. So that for any email service provider, you want to make sure that there's a business associates agreement if you're doing specific just for your clients. If you're doing general psychoeducation, you don't need to worry about that as much. So using something like Aweber, that's what we use for our email service provider. And then the other thing that can really help is Zapier. That's Zapier. You can create all these what they call zaps. So if someone pays for something in Stripe, then they're automatically added to this email list. If they're added to that email list, they're taken off of the interest list. So you can automate a lot of those things. So maybe you have a teachable course that's all about depression, and all new clients get to watch that course for free. that you can then have an automated email sequence saying, hey, by doing therapy with our practice, you get access to this free depression course. It's going to teach you some of the basics of overcoming seasonal affective disorder. You can have that sort of thing then just be automated in your intake rather than someone manually like hand entering in someone's email to get in there.
Yeah, that's cool. I like what you're saying about, the way to automate and to make things easier for yourself. Now, for me, that brings up a little bit of, so I'm like, I don't know this. And I understand, like I have Aweber too, and I have a Zap, but I'm so scared. And like that to me is kind of like a foreign language. So that's where I would be, I shouldn't be touching that. I'm going to outsource it. But is that part of, your programs that you have? Do you teach these things, or is that something that's included?
Yeah. So with Next Level Practice, we have a weekly call. So we have one that's just a straight up Q&A with our consultants. And we rotate through all of our consultants with that. Two of them I run. So one of them is called What's Working. And so people that are in solo practice and group practice come to that. And, we really just survey the people that are there live and say, what do you want to talk about? So, if a bunch of people are like, I want to talk about private pay, I want to leave insurances, I'm sick of that. Other people might say, I want to talk marketing. So then we'll put them into small groups for 10 minutes to talk about, say, marketing, and then come back and say, what were the best things you just heard in the last 10 minutes? So it's a way to curate a lot of good ideas very quickly. So we do that once a month. And then we bring in experts every single month for Ask the Expert. So for the first 10 minutes, I ask that expert all sorts of questions. And then for the last 50, it's just asking questions. So like Julie Schwartz-Gottman, we brought in to talk about couples work. Pat Flynn, we brought in to talk about passive income. And we bring in all sorts of other people around just private practice issues. Yeah. So we ask our members, like, what do you want to learn? And if someone said, we want to learn, really emails and doing that well, then we would bring someone in for our Ask the Expert around that. But we also have 40 plus e-courses on a variety of different things. With actually Aweber recently has been something a lot of people have been asking for. So we're in the planning stages of putting together a course around that that's just included in the membership. Yeah,
I feel like Aweber is kind of up in their game recently. I don't know if it's because, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm now subscribing to a lot of Substacks. I'm getting a lot of, newsletters coming at me, and I feel like they're kind of going in that direction just a little bit to make it more like looks like a newsletter kind of thing. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, well, man, is there anything else that you would like to share that I missed that I didn't cover with, where to spend your time in each phase of building and growing these different business models?
Yeah, I think there's just a couple guiding principles that no matter what phase is applicable. So Parkinson's law, a lot of us have heard of that. So Parkinson's law, one side of it is that work expands to the time given. And so if we give something a week to get it done, it'll take us a week. Will it be as perfect or polished as a month? Probably not. But then we can get some data and some testing with it to see how it works. And so the idea of getting things out there is more important than having it be perfect. The other side of Parkinson's law that is rarely discussed is that systems get bloated over time. And once something's put in a system, it's near impossible to pull back out. And so what Parkinson found was with the British Navy, if they had some sort of rule or paperwork that got added in, it was near impossible to pull that paperwork back out once it was in. And so we want to have ways that we shed a lot of the systems we've set up. And so one way to do that is to, again, give yourself less time to do things, because you'll work on the very best things. And then the things that really you should be either delegating or eliminating will become very apparent. And so doing that fierce audit of why are we even doing this? Like, is this, so sure, we're posting on social media 5 days a week. How many people are coming through social media for intakes? Zero people say that our Instagram is the reason that they came to work with us. Why are we spending this much staff time on social media then? So that is a guiding principle. And then the second one I would say is that so often we compare someone else's, 10-year journey to our starting point. I forgot who first said that. It wasn't me. I know that. But, just building one thing at a time. We built Next Level Practice first. As people started leaving that, we asked them why, and they said, well, we want to start a group practice. And we had nothing to give them, so we started Group Practice Launch. And after that, they were like, well, we want to have support as a group practice owner. So we started Group Practice Boss. And so now we have start to finish programs to help people, but it didn't start that way. It was just, what's that next reasonable step for me and for my audience? And that's true in private practice as well, to be able to watch those numbers and see what's working and then do more of that.
Nice. Oh, I love those principles. Thank you so much. This has just been a phenomenal interview, and I'm grateful for your time. So thank you. And, I can't believe there are people out there who have not heard of Practice of the Practice. So, Joe, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find all your different programs.
Yeah. So Practice of the Practice is a podcast. It's a website. We get about 70 to 100,000 listens a month on the podcast. So feel free to check that out. We have lots of different phases of practice advice. It's mostly the business, but we've been putting in even more of the clinical as well. We've actually put together a course specifically for people that are either growing a solo practice or growing a group practice over at pillarsofpractice.com. And then you just choose if you're in or starting a solo practice or if you're in group practice. And we have these 8-minute expert videos that are in there where we literally start a timer and say, let's talk websites, let's talk bookkeeping. There's checklists in there for starting and growing your practice. We've brought together all of our opt-ins into one spot so that you can have a ton of free paperwork over at pillarsofpractice.com.
Okay, well, I will definitely put all of that in the show notes. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I would just say, go get them. I mean, seriously, like the world needs more competent, thriving practices that match the heart that you're putting into the world. And so like we get to create something that doesn't exist. We get to create practices that match our quirky weirdness. We get to have practices that are so niched into the people you want to help. And we get to do this work. So savor it, go after it. Don't get paralyzed by perfection. And we're here to help you if you need some extra hand holding.
Well, awesome. I think you've inspired me once again to dip my toe in the pool. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, I should do it. I should do it. I should do it. Oh, it's so tempting. But all right. Well, thanks so much, Joe, for being here. It's just been awesome to have you on again.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
We could not do this show without amazing sponsors like Therapy Notes. Therapy Notes is the best electronic health record out there. We would absolutely love for you to go check them out totally for free. You can get a discount if you just use promo code Joe at checkout. Again, that's therapynotes.com. Use promo code Joe at checkout. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.